Firestorm, the nuclear man. Heed the warning of the frozen dead. Kiss not the lips of Killer Frost. Two men fused by a bizarre nuclear explosion. One is Nobel Prize-winning physicist Professor Martin Stein. The other is teenager Ronnie Raymond, and together they form Firestorm. Kiss not the lips of Killer Frost. Ronald, this is outrageous. You may indeed be late for school, but I'm overdue at a military air base. Our dual identity as Firestorm is a privilege and a responsibility, not an alternative for the subway. Ronald, are you listening? I hear you, Professor Stein, but I just caught sight of a worm I know, so excuse me while I give the creep a thrill. Yeah! You're that Firestorm guy, the one all the newspapers are writing about. What are you doing at Bradley High? And what do you want with me? Clifford Carmichael. I want words with you. My sources claim you referred to me as a mental midget, hung up on violence. Is that true? Maybe I was a little rash. I'll warn you once, Carmichael. Nobody likes a smart mouth. And if I hear you're making cracks about me, or anyone, particularly my alter ego, Ronnie Raymond, I'll plant you where you bring up roses. Look at the guy. I've scared him so much he's speechless. This is just too easy. Are you done, Ronald? If so, there's a slim chance I can still catch my plane, provided you ferry me out to Long Island. Sorry, Professor. No can do. What? Ronald, I may be the dormant persona in our dual ego, but I resent the way you cavalierly hauled me from my Westchester nuclear lab, all the way into Manhattan, just so you can intimidate your high school rival. I said I was sorry, okay? Martin Stein's persona replies with angry silence, which lasts until the nuclear man drops into a concealing alley, concentrates, and splits once again into teenage student and middle-aged scientist. Then, how on earth did I get here? I should be on Long Island, at the airfield. My God, I must have had another blackout, the fourth since the accident at my nuclear plant. Am I losing my mind? Lord in heaven, what's been happening to me? I feel lousy about this. Treating the professor and our Firestorm identity like a private taxicab. But heck, I didn't ask for this scene. Did I? It's too bad the prof never remembers being Firestorm. That's because he was unconscious when we were hit by all that radiation. Uh-oh, here comes Carmichael. I better get ready for a real put-down. Hi, Cliff. What's doing? Oh, hello, Raymond. Have a nice day. See you later. Too much. Cliff's so dazed by what happened out there. He isn't making his usual dumb jock wisecracks. Well, now I know one way to keep that big mouth zipped. Though it's kinda like swatting flies with a bazooka. Say, there's Ronnie. I wonder what he's doing after the basketball game tonight. Howdy, handsome. Got a date for the... Still, even though scaring Cliff with Firestorm isn't the sort of thing I'd do twice, it's nice to know it's there. Now, if only I could figure a way to use the professor's smarts to help me pass my chemistry exam. Ronnie? Ronnie! Of all the nerve, he didn't even hear me. Either that, or I've just been dumped. I'll give him one more chance after school, and if he ignores me again... My apologies for being late, General Casper, but I was, detained in Manhattan for an emergency meeting. Could you explain to me again why I'm needed so desperately in the Arctic? It's not you, Stein. It's your experimental condenser. The brain boys up at Mohole 1 are trying to find ways to use heat from the Earth's core for energy. They built the plant in the Arctic so they could use the natural cold for cooling and superconducting. But they need this condenser to make the system practical. I understand now, General. Then let's zip it, mister. We've got a 10-hour trip ahead of us. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's a trap-flapping egghead. And so, 10.5 hours of uneasy silence later, the Arctic clouds part before the descending Air Force craft to reveal. Mohole 1, Stein. Take a good look. It just might be the last hope of an energy-starved world. Obviously, Casper doesn't think much of my own work with nuclear reactors. Not that I blame the man. Even with the highest safety standards, such as those on the plant I designed myself, a reactor is still a dreadfully chancy device. If this mole project can relieve the energy problem, perhaps I should shift my efforts, or... Eh? That woman, waving at me. Lord in heaven, it's Crystal. Crystal Frost. I haven't seen you in years, since you were my student at Hudson University. It's Dr. Frost now, Martin. I've come a long way. The cooling system on this plant is mostly my design. In fact, you're here on my recommendation. Don't hog the man, Frost. Professor Stein, my name's Lowe, and I'm Project Director for Mole 1. This is Dr. French and Professor Claire. We're all looking forward to working with you. There is much we have to discuss, mon ami. Quite. Your paper on thermal resistance was truly illuminating, Stein. Let's get inside, out of the cold. Yes, why don't you? And while you're at it, ignore me completely. It's been this way since the project started. This male clique, isolating me, shutting me out, simply because of my gender. Well, now that Martin's here, that will change. Gentlemen, if you don't mind, Professor Stein came here for a purpose. With your permission, I'll show him our problem. Soon, in the massive refrigeration unit which dominates several acres of the project compound. Don't let the others mislead you, Martin. This is my brainchild. Because of the tremendous heat we'll soon be piping up from the planetary core, we need a super efficient cooling system. This, what I call the thermofrost. An automatic relay keeps the temperature in here comfortable when the central door is open, but when it's shut, the unit drops to minus 1000 degrees centigrade, instantly. If you'll step outside, I'll show you where the difficulty lies. It's so good to be near him again, to know that we're finally together, after all these years. All my life, I've wanted only one thing, to be respected for myself, not for my womanhood or my beauty. Throughout childhood, I was constantly tormented by my peers for my aloofness, but I'd hoped, when I entered college, that the tormenting would stop. For a time, it seemed that it had. Studying engineering physics under Professor Stein, I found myself accepted as a scholar first, a woman second. I think that's when I fell in love with Martin Stein. And I believe, secretly, he fell in love with me. As for other men, I found them boring, patronizing, and aggressive. None of them desired me for my mind, as I'm sure Martin did. When I snubbed them, they called me the Ice Maiden, because they thought I was afraid of love. But the truth is, I've never been afraid. I've only wanted one man. A man who would treat me as an equal, not like Lowe or French or that idiot Claire. They ignore me because of my womanhood. But Martin? I think I understand your problem, Crystal. You're pulling too much power through your condensers. Using my device, To hell with the project, Martin. Isn't it time we were honest with ourselves? Honest? I love you, Martin. You see me as more than a woman. Of course I do, Crystal. You're a scientist, I'm a scientist. How else should I see you? And what in God's name has all that got to do with love? You don't love me? Crystal, I'm confused. Didn't you ask me here to help with the cooling system? Yes. No. Damn you. Of all the men in the world, I thought you'd understand me. But you don't care. Crystal, what? Oh, go talk with the rest of the men. I hope this gives you all a good laugh. I should have known. I was a fool to think Stein would be different. But like every man, he's blind and stupid. How could I have made such a fool of myself? That's what I can't understand. Behaving like some schoolgirl, simpering and whining. As though I needed him. It's not like me. Not like me at all. Eh? The thermofrost unit. We left the self-locking door open. As long as it's open, the unit holds a normal temperature, and the unit isn't built to operate in such heat. Some crucial element might have been damaged. This is all Martin's fault. If he hadn't distracted me, I would have seen this. Oh my God! The door! I've knocked it shut! No sign of Dr. Frost anywhere, mon ami. We have searched the compound twice in the past 2 hours. She is nowhere. I can't help feeling that this is my fault. You can't mean that, Stein. I do, Claire. As a student, Crystal was always withdrawn, perhaps psychotically so. She seemed to be in constant conflict with herself, and because I once tried to draw her out, I'm afraid she misinterpreted my motives. When we were talking earlier, she said, Where? Where were you talking? Here, outside the thermofrost unit. Then she told me to go away, and Lord, you don't suppose... Quick! Someone help me get this door unlocked. Maybe the unit malfunctioned. Dr. Frost might still be alive by some miracle, but we've gotta hurry. There! It's opening. Stand back. There will be a blast of cold air from... Great Jehoshaphat! Someone's in there! Moving! It's Crystal! Wrong, Martin. Crystal Frost is dead, killed by your rejection. And the instant she died, Killer Frost was born. Something happened in that super cold thermofrost. Every atom and molecule in my body has been frozen, crystallized. You men once called me an ice maiden. Now you'll see how right you were. What's wrong, Martin? You're running from me? Don't you love me anymore? Won't you hold me in your arms? Or are you afraid you'll become like him? What's this? You've called the Project Security Force? Cripes, what kind of girl is that? Whatever she is, we better surround her till General Casper gets here. The scientists have all fled. It's just us. True, fool. And soon it shall be just me. She's throwing ice! Look out before it... Freezing over. Can't move. Can't even... With a brittle laugh like ice breaking, Killer Frost rises on a swirl of cold air in swift pursuit of the fleeing scientist, and one scientist in particular named Stein. And at that very moment in Manhattan's Bradley High... Ha! I've got you cornered, Hamilton. Ain't no way you can make the basket from here. I can't. Huh? But Ronnie can. Do it, brother. And it's a score by Ronnie Raymond. Bradley High leads by 12 points. Go, Ronnie, go! Go, Ronnie, go! Hey, Ronnie! I don't care if I am mad at him. Ronnie makes the rest of the guys look like they're standing still. Wow, I just wish Dad were here tonight, instead of at his newspaper. It's great to feel part of something, to have people like you. After all the other schools I've gone to, this is... Hey, there's Doreen. But isn't that Principal Hapgood in the row behind her? He looks upset, worried. Who's that guy he's talking to? Dr. Hapgood is one of Dad's oldest friends. If something's wrong with... Wake up, Ronnie! It's your ball! Go, my man, go! But fate is about to deal Ronnie Raymond an unkind blow, for simultaneously, many miles north, you've reached a dead end, Martin Stein. Your own. Kiss me, Martin. Kiss your scorned lover. Kiss the lips of Killer Frost. Yo, all of a sudden, I'm freezing. Only one possible reason. Something's happening to Professor Stein. Ronnie, are you nuts? It's your shot. No timeout was called. The ball is still in play. Bradley High loses ball, recovered by Rollins. What a bozo. I knew it all along. Oh, Ronnie. But in the locker room, out of sight of teammates and audience, Ronnie Raymond is undergoing a dramatic change. A change that sends him hurtling through space instantaneously. To form the composite nuclear man. Holy Hannah, this is danger? Wow, I could handle this sort of trouble all the time. I must have misread the prof's signals, but just so the trip isn't a total waste, Huh? What's going on? I can't break away, and I'm starting to ice up. I'm freezing. It takes only seconds, and then, drawing back, Killer Frost finally sees her victim, and snarls with anger. Impossible! Somehow Martin slipped away while I was reaching for him, leaving this costumed fool in his place. He may have escaped me momentarily, but he will not stay hidden for long. Professor, help me. You can't imagine my gratitude for your appearance, Ronald, but I can provide little help but advice. Only you can provide the decision to act. Use your nuclear heat, Ronald. Thaw yourself, quickly, before the frost reaches your brain. Dimly, as though through a curtain, Firestorm hears distant shouts, the tinkling of ice, a high-pitched laugh. The sounds are a spur, and with an effort, he stirs his cold, numb thoughts and activates the atomic furnace of his body. While in the distance, the shouts grow fewer and fainter with each passing moment. Seconds become minutes, and when 10 of those have passed, a threshold is reached and exceeded with a satisfying, "I've cracked the ice. I'm free." One thing I just don't get, Professor. Why is it Ronnie always travels to where you are when we become Firestorm? An interesting problem, Ronald. Perhaps better suited for pursuing another time. Gotcha, Professor. Once I pass through this wall, I can... There she is! Whoops. So much for the benefit of surprise. I blew that one. Big. You better fill me in on this lady fast, Professor. But until you do, I'll stall her with some heat blasts. After all, if she can toss icicles like spears, then she'll probably just hate. Say what? She's eating it up. She actually likes the heat treatment. But that doesn't make sense. She should be melting, and instead she's grinning. And she's stronger than ever. Now what? Firing blasts of her ice power into the ceiling? Has she flipped, or have I? Gangway! Now I get it. Icing up the ceiling, she made it too heavy to support its own weight. It's coming down like a hail of cannonballs, if even one of them hits me. Only one way to deal with that. Besides heat, I've got another nifty power. I can rearrange atomic structure with a flick of the wrist, changing those ice spears into half-pound snowflakes the size of frisbees. Put that in your hat, Ice Lady. Whoever you are, whatever you are, your power is incredible. Glad you think so, sister, 'cause here's where I use it on you. Ronald, don't try it. You've never used your nuclear touch on organic living beings. The reaction is unpredictable. Ah! You sure called it, Professor. My blast must have boomeranged, and it whomped me something fierce. You may be dazed, Ronald, but apparently you're not seriously injured. Just don't lose Dr. Frost. Lose her? If I had my way, I'd never go near that crazy lady again. See what I do for you, Prof? Still mad because I use us for a bus sometimes? I see that you're a complicated young man, Ronald. You have a good heart, though you are somewhat immature. Oh yeah? This conversation's getting on my nerves, Prof. Why don't we just put it on hold until after I... Yowie! You underestimated me, boy. Because of my femininity, you thought me weak. But I am strong. Strong! This frozen wall will have flattened you. A pity, since I have so many questions. Who were you? Why were you here? How did you get your powers? Now those questions will never be answered. Hey? Good thing I can alter my atoms to slip through solid objects. Otherwise there'd be more on that floor than a puddle of melted ice. Gone? Phew. So now what, Professor? Like the lady said, she's a heck of a lot more powerful than I ever imagined. Which brings up a point you've never explained. Who is this killer Frost cutie? And how come she had you in a bear hug when I arrived? Crystal Frost is a sad woman, Ronald. A victim of social pressures which demanded more than she could provide. Too bad for her. I mean, I'm sorry she's had a tough life. But right now, she's trying to kill us. So let's drop the psychoanalysis stuff and figure a way out of this mess. She's got ice powers. What else? Apparently she also absorbs heat. Otherwise your nuclear fire would have melted her. Uh-huh. Go on. Literally lost in conversation with himself, Firestorm doesn't hear the creaking of freezing beams above him. Her hearing sensitized by her icy shell, Killer Frost has pinpointed the murmur of Firestorm's voice, and though she can't understand the words, she doesn't really have to. She knows what she wants. And what she wants is his death. Oh boy. Don't you ever quit? This is getting monotonous. Ronald, I have it. I have it. So give it to me already. When you first arrived, you tried fighting her with heat, and we quickly realized that she was immune to temperature changes. But Ronald, we were wrong. That's what you think. I could toss this lady in a furnace and she wouldn't bat an eye. Exactly, Ronald. To review, she first showed herself when the thermofrost unit was opened, and by opening the unit, we activated the automatic controls, which raised the temperature instantly to normal. Until then, she was immobile, frozen. In the same way, she absorbed heat from the men she kissed, freezing them by the absence of warmth, not the presence of cold. This leads us to one conclusion, Ronald. Killer Frost needs warmth. She thrives on it, lives for it. Without it, she should be helpless. And that gives me an idea. Imbecile! What are you doing? You can't harm me with your... eh? Or can you? You didn't aim at me. You changed the atoms in the walls, created some sort of refrigeration unit. No! You've turned this room into a thermofrost unit. Come back! You can't do this! That's where you're wrong, Frost. I've already activated the freezer, and it's already begun. No! Please, I just wanted to punish them for hurting me. Please don't leave me in here. Please. Damn you! You're like the rest, like all of them. If I could get out, I'd kill you. Kill you! Kill... Did it have to be this way, Professor? I never wanted to hurt her. You had no choice, Ronald. Perhaps now, for the first time, you understand the responsibilities of your power. Perhaps the brash young boy is becoming a man. I just wish it didn't happen so fast. It always does, Ronald. It always does. The end. Next issue, The Hyena.